My fiancé is a rebirth. Yesterday, I overheard him telling his mother that I'm the only child of Prince Li who was lost among the common people, and he plans to have his white moonlight take my place to reunite with my birth family. For this, he pretended to be bedridden with illness and bribed the doctor to say he needs a dragon blood rejuvenation orchid to save his life. This medicine grows on Black Dragon Cliff, and rumor has it no one has ever come out of there alive. I left the jade pendant with him and left without looking back. He thinks I went to Black Dragon Cliff, but actually I headed straight for the capital. The jade pendant I gave him is fake. I'm waiting in the capital for these two shameless scoundrels to walk into my trap. Yesterday, I had agreed with my fiancé Lu Mingyuan that I'd go to Guoqing Temple to pray for him as soon as I woke up. But before leaving, I still decided to deliver the ginseng porridge I got up in the middle of the night to make for him first. My mother was from out of town, and after settling in Shuangqiao town, she received much care from Lu Mingyuan's mother, Madame Zhang. When the Lu family's house caught fire, my mother rushed into the flames and saved Madame Zhang, but she herself died from her severe injuries. Madame Zhang was grateful for my mother saving her life and arranged the marriage between me and Lu Mingyuan. Although the Lu family is a declining scholarly family, they're still way better than an orphan girl from a merchant family like me. This marriage Danai was marrying above my station. Early in the morning, I carried the porridge and entered the Lu residence through the side gate. Madame Zhang was extremely pleased with me. With my wedding to Lu Mingyuan approaching, she gave me the key to this side gate so I could come and go easily to take care of the seriously ill Lu Mingyuan. This corner gate leads directly to Lu Mingyuan's courtyard. Afraid of disturbing him, I tiptoed toward the small kitchen, planning to leave the ginseng porridge and go. When passing by Lu Mingyuan's room, I heard murmuring voices inside, occasionally mixed with Madame Zhang's frustrated low growls. Afraid the mother and son would start arguing and worsen Lu Mingyuan's condition, I hurried to push open the door, ready to mediate. However, just as my hand was about to touch the door, I suddenly heard my name, and I quickly stopped. I've never liked Shen Qingli. It was all you forcing me. From beginning to end, I've only ever liked Cici. I was completely stunned. Lu Mingyuan never mentioned he had someone he loved. Otherwise, I wouldn't have accepted this marriage. No wonder he was always I thought he had become pedantic from too much studying, overly concerned about propriety between men and women. Turns out, he never liked me at all. It would be a lie to say it didn't hurt. Throughout my entire youth when love first bloomed, Lu Mingyuan was my only object of fantasy. I had imagined watching clouds drift with him, grinding ink and writing together, listening to music and sipping tea together, having children together. The only thing I never imagined was that he had someone he loved, that he didn't like me. My chest felt like it was pierced by thousands of needles, the dense pain making it hard to even breathe. Inside the room, Madame Zhang flew into a rage, her voice rising instantly. I think you've lost your mind. Liu Cici is just a woman from a pleasure house. What is there to like about her? Lu Mingyuan. Cici only sells her art, not her body. Madame Zhang, how pure can a woman from a place of ill repute be? How can she compare to Qingli? Anyway, as long as I can still draw breath, Liu Cici can forget about stepping through the doors of our Lu family. Oh, so she is a brothel woman, although I never expected Lu Mingyuan to fall in love with me before our marriage. I also never imagined that in his heart, I couldn't even compare to a brothel woman. I turned around to leave, but suddenly heard Lu Mingyuan soften his voice and say, Mother, what if Cici is a princess lost among the common folk? Would you still agree to our marriage then? Madame Zhang replied without hesitation. Do you even need to ask? If we could marry a princess, it would mean our Lu family ancestors' graves are smoking with good fortune. Lu Mingyuan was extremely pleased with himself and revealed everything. Mother, don't be shocked when I tell you this. I actually have rebirth. Let me tell you. Shen Qingli is Prince Li's only child who was lost among the common folk. She has a jade pendant in her possession. As long as Cece takes that jade pendant to the capital to find Prince Li, he will definitely acknowledge Cece as his daughter. Then why don't you just marry Qingli directly? Madame Zhang was puzzled. Lu Mingyuan, absolutely not. In my previous life, I married her, and her royal father lectured me every single day. I suffered a lifetime of humiliation. This time around, I will definitely only marry my beloved Cece. Mother, stop pushing me into a fire pit. When Madame Zhang heard that her son had suffered in his past life, she no longer insisted on having him marry me. Instead, she started worrying about Liu Cece. So you had Liu Cece take Qingli's jade pendant to claim kinship. Then aren't you afraid Qingli will expose her after finding out? Lu Mingyuan laughed smugly. That is exactly why I have to pretend to be sick. You bastard, you were faking it. The sound of Madame Zhang hitting her son came from inside the room. You even deceived your own mother. Lu Mingyuan hurriedly apologized. If I couldn't fool you, how could I fool Shen Qingli? She is quite the shrewd one. Madame Zhang let out a breath. Then tell me, why are you pretending to be sick? Lu Mingyuan. Of course it is to trick Shen Qingli into going to Black Dragon Cliff. Madame Zhang gasped. No one has ever come out of that place alive. Aren't you being a bit too cruel? After all, her mother once saved me. How about we set up a trap, make her lose her virtue, and then goad her into hanging herself? I nearly ground my teeth to bits just to stop myself from barging in and cursing them out. Lu Mingyuan, no. It would be too unlucky to have her die at home. That 3-dan courtyard residence of hers could still sell for quite a bit of money. Madame Zhang agreed. All right then, I'll do as you say. When the time comes, you act more convincingly, and I'll arrange for the doctor to deliberately exaggerate his condition. That silly girl Qingli will definitely sneak off to Black Dragon Cliff without telling us. I couldn't listen anymore and quickly left through the side gate carrying the kanji. After leaving the Lu residence, I stormed through 5 alleys in one breath before my emotions finally calmed down. My first reaction was to immediately go to the capital to reunite with my birth family and have my real father deal with that vicious mother and son pair from the Lu family. But on second thought, cutting through the mess quickly would be letting them off too easy. Only slowly cutting flesh with a dull knife could relieve the hatred in my heart. I decided to go to Guoqing Temple as planned. The blessing ritual required chanting sutras overnight at the temple. If I hadn't heard those filthy words, I definitely would have done as told. But now, I had someone make a counterfeit based on my jade pendant. Although the quality wasn't as good as the real jade, the patterns and craftsmanship were 90% similar, enough to pass off as genuine. The next day, when I came down the mountain, I headed straight to the Lu residence. In Lu Mingyuan's room, the old doctor playing his part was already in position. Seeing me enter, the old doctor began sighing, while Madame Zhang wiped away non-existent tears beside him. Lu Mingyuan had a forehead band wrapped around his head, leaning weakly against the headboard. Qingli, come here. Lu Mingyuan rarely took the initiative to wave me over. I obediently did as told and stood by the bedside. Lu Mingyuan looked at me with half-lidded eyes. Qingli, no matter how my mother begs you, you mustn't agree to her, understand? I pretended to look confused at Madame Zhang. Auntie, what exactly is going on? Madame Zhang opened her mouth, wanting to say something. But after glancing at her son, she just sighed heavily. Qingli, it is better if you don't ask. I had to admit, Madame Zhang had put some effort into her acting and her expressions and movements were all perfectly executed. The old doctor we invited put on a pretentious act, directly signaling me with his eyes to talk outside. I hastily made up some excuse and left the room. The Lu mother and son couldn't have been happier, Zan. They didn't even bother with a fake attempt to stop me. The old doctor met me behind the rockery. As soon as he saw me, he started sighing. Miss, your fiancé's condition is very bad. I quickly played along and clutched my chest. Doctor, Just say whatever you need to say, I can handle it. Seeing how cooperative I was, the old doctor immediately changed his tune. Actually, there is a way to save your fiancé's life. Tell me, tell me. I was genuinely impatient now. The old geezer was so long-winded, taking forever to get to the point. I was worried I couldn't keep up my emotional performance for much longer. I'm just afraid you won't be able to do it, miss. The old geezer started beating around the bush again. I quickly gave him reassurance. Even if it means climbing a mountain of knives or diving into a sea of fire, trading my life for his. I'm willing, please, doctor. Show me the way. The old geezer nodded with satisfaction, and finally got to the point. As long as you can obtain the dragon blood Duen Su Lan, your fiancé can be saved. I asked impatiently. Where can I find it? The old geezer, if I tell you, you might. I gritted my teeth. Spit it out. Seeing my reddened eyes, the old geezer thought I was genuinely moved. Black Dragon Cliff, only there. Before he could finish, I had already whirled back to Lu Mingyuan's room, like a tornado. Auntie, I'll be going out for a few days. During this time, I'll trouble you to take care of Mingyuan. After saying this, I bowed and turned to leave. Qingli. Lu Mingyuan anxiously called out to stop me. I turned around. His gaze was fixed intently on the jade pendant at my waist. Where are you going, naturally? I wouldn't tell him that I was going to the capital to reunite with my biological father and steal his white moonlight from him. Oh my, it is girl stuff. Don't ask so many questions. Madame Zhang dinned to smooth things over, acting as if she was terrified I might mention the name Black Dragon Cliff. Seeing that I wasn't being sensible enough, Lu Mingyuan had no choice but to speak up himself. Since you'll be away for a few days, could you leave your jade pendant to keep me company? I'm not used to going a day without seeing you. I had long been eager to give it to him on my own initiative, but I was afraid going too fast would arouse his suspicion. Seeing him finally ask, I immediately took off my artificially aged jade pendant and placed it by his pillow. Seeing the jade is like seeing me, Mingyuan. Let this jade keep you company for a few days on my behalf. You'll get better soon, trust me. I trust you. Lu Mingyuan struggled to hold back his laughter. Go and come back soon. Be careful on the road. After this exchange of pretenses, I walked out of the Lu residence. I went home to pack up, entrusted the house to Nanny Wu, who had raised me since childhood, and then headed toward Black Dragon Cliff. Gotta commit to the act all the way, right? Once I reached a place far from town, I got on the carriage I had rented in advance and traveled north all the way. To arrive at Prince Li's residence before Lu Mingyuan and Liu Sisi, I traveled day and night without rest. When I arrived at the capital, I didn't go directly to Prince Li's residence, but instead paid for information about where Prince Li usually liked to spend his leisure time, learning that he went to Shoyan Pavilion every 2 days to listen to music and enjoy tea, and that today happened to be one of those days. I immediately rushed over. Perhaps it was fate Zanai had just changed into men's clothes, and sat in the shop for a short while when a carriage bearing the character Li stopped at the entrance of Shoyan Pavilion. A middle-aged man oozing dominance stepped down from the carriage. Tall in stature with well-proportioned features, still strikingly handsome even in middle age. It is just that even when he wasn't frowning, there were permanent creases between his brows, making him look very unapproachable. The shop owner and waiter immediately surrounded him, bowing and scraping while calling out, "Your Highness." I sat quietly, and after confirming he had entered his private room, I slowly made my way over. 2 guards blocked me with their blades, not allowing me to approach. I slipped them 2 pouches of silver. If you would be so kind, just show this jade pendant to the prince for a moment. I absolutely won't put you two in a difficult position. The silver pouches were quite heavy, and the request was so simple, so the 2 men immediately agreed. One continued to watch over me while the other took my jade pendant into the private room. Before long, the guard came out and respectfully invited me in. Inside the private room, Prince Li sat there with an imposing posture, Those in the know would know he was here to listen to music and enjoy tea. Those who didn't might think he was at an execution ground overseeing a beheading. Father. The moment I entered, I knelt down, tearfully introducing myself. This child is called Shen Qingli. My mother is Shen Yueqi, from Meici Town. I'm 18 years old this year. My birthday is May 16th. Yueqi. My old man slammed the table and stood up, so agitated his hands were shaking. Is your mother outside? Seeing him like this, he must be deeply in love with my mother. Probably couldn't handle the news of her death. I shrank my neck, secretly scooting back on my knees. My mother passed away. My father was struck, like by 5 thunderbolts, instantly fried inside and out. When did this happen? 5 years ago. I quietly retreated 2 more steps, stopping at a position where he couldn't reach me with a sword. My neighbor's house caught fire. My mother saved the neighbor auntie, but her own injuries were too severe to treat. Did you send that woman she saved to be buried with her? My father gritted his teeth, eyes turning red. I shivered, answering in a small voice. How would I dare? Slap. My father slapped the table hard, sat back down imposingly. You're a dignified princess. What wouldn't you dare to do? Me. Well, I didn't know beforehand, okay? Seeing me shrink further and further away like a quail. My father finally realized I was still kneeling, hurriedly helped me up, and lovingly stroked my head. You look exactly like your imperial consort mother. Before he finished speaking, tears fell in strings. I searched for your imperial consort mother for 18 years. She was so cruel, dan-hearted, wouldn't even come back to see me once before dying. My heart shuddered. For someone as gentle as my mother to never want to see him again in her lifetime. Unless, Father, did you do something to wrong my mother? My voice became sharp without me realizing it. If I had a knife on hand, it would definitely already be at this scumbag father's neck. I didn't. My father loudly retorted, then became dejected again. I just brought a pregnant woman back to the manor. Before my father could finish, I grabbed the teacup and splashed it directly in his face. This is on behalf of my mother. You don't deserve to be my father. I turned to leave, but was held tightly by my father. Why are you as stubborn as your mother? Can you please let your royal father finish speaking? I brushed off his hand and sat down sprawled like he did. Fine, speak. My father let out a heavy sigh, humbly poured me a cup of tea, and pushed it in front of me. General Qin died, saving me. His widow was still pregnant and had no other relatives. I couldn't just ignore her. I thought it was just a matter of 2 more pairs of chopsticks, and the manor could afford it, so I brought her back. Then, whenever you were with my mother, that woman would have stomach pains, headaches, chest pains, toothaches, all sorts of pains anyway, and then she'd send someone to call you over day or night, right? I questioned harshly. My father nodded blankly. How did you know? Did your mother tell you? I rolled my eyes at him. In your dreams, my mother has never mentioned you. My father's shoulders immediately slumped down, continuously wiping his tears. After your mother left, I only realized how stupid I was. I thought I was repaying a debt of gratitude, but I was actually manipulated by that woman, making your mother mistakenly think I had filthy thoughts about her. I was truly stupid to the extreme. My father raised his hand and slapped himself twice across the face. He truly hated himself, not holding back any strength at all, and 2 handprints immediately appeared on his face. After discovering your mother had left, I sent General Qin's widow away that very day, but your mother never came back. When you have time, go to her grave and admit your wrongs to her in person. Whether she forgives you or not, that is up to her. I sighed, not bothering to comfort him. Besides acknowledging our kinship, I came to find you today because I have serious matters I need your help with. My father immediately wiped his tears with his elbow. Don't worry, Father King will definitely help you to the end. Me. Don't call yourself my Father King yet. My father got anxious. Although I let your mother down, you're my only child in this lifetime. You can't refuse to acknowledge me. I raised my hand and pressed down, gesturing for him to calm down. Then I told him everything about Lu Mingyuan's scheme that I had overheard. After listening, my father suddenly drew his machete. That dog bastard, daring to scheme against this king's daughter. Just wait for Father King to chop off his head for you to kick around like a kuju ball. Seeing me lean back in fright from him, my dad hurriedly put on an apologetic smile, put the knife back in its sheath, and awkwardly comforted me. Good daughter, don't worry. When they come to impersonate you, I'll chop them down one by one for you to see. Don't. I quickly made a stop gesture. Not only can you not kill them, you also have to acknowledge that Liu Sisi without leaving any trace. My dad was stunned for a moment, then suddenly smiled slyly. Does my good daughter want to catch a turtle in a jar? Exactly. I whispered my general plan to him. After listening, the father and daughter let out sleazy laughter together. My dad found a master of disguise and got me a flawless human skin mask. And so, there was an additional pretty Zan boy guard at the entrance of Prince Li's mansion. Although this guard was the shortest, he had the most power. Everyone in Prince Li's mansion from top to bottom, including Prince Li himself, all had to listen to this guard. My dad called me Ruian, saying it was one of the names he had chosen for the child after my mom got pregnant back then. 3 days later, Lu Mingyuan and Liu Sisi appeared in front of Prince Li's mansion. Normally, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to travel from Shuangqiao town where we live to the capital. They must have rushed here very urgently, fearing that delays might cause trouble. As soon as I saw the two appear, I, who had been bored for several days, immediately perked up. I stuffed the melon seeds in my hand to the nanny who had been constantly feeding me, grabbed the ruler that hadn't left my hand these past few days, stood up, and gave a look to the few proper guards. Everyone understood tacitly and readied themselves for action. Lu Mingyuan, acting as if he had been given official authority, strutted over arrogantly and shouted at us. Hey you guys, go and inform King Li immediately. Tell him his own daughter has come to visit and acknowledge her family. The moment he finished speaking, I grabbed a ruler and whipped it hard across his face. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you come to Prince Li's manor and boss people around? I backhanded his other cheek, then kicked him right in his family jewels. Do you have any idea how many idiots come here every year claiming kinship? This time it is really true. Lu Mingyuan clutched his family jewels, gasping heavily from the pain, yet still endured it to point at Liu Sisi, who had long hidden behind the hitching post. She really is Prince Li's biological daughter. I slightly raised my chin, and several guards pinned Lu Mingyuan down and gave him a thorough beating. Idiot. Everyone who comes to claim kinship says they're the real deal. Can't you come up with something more original? Granny Zhang, who was always by my side, quickly handed back the melon seeds I had been eating earlier. I walked toward Liu Sisi while cracking seeds. Aren't you here to claim kinship? Why are you hiding? Step out and let this master have a look. See if you resemble our prince or princess consort. Liu Sisi stepped out from behind the hitching post, trying hard to overwhelm me with her presence. Impudent. Why aren't you kneeling before this princess? I kicked her, and she lost her balance and fell to the side, her temple hitting the hitching post, immediately breaking the skin and bleeding. Liu Sisi raised her hand and touched the blood, completely losing it, pointing at me and cursing. You stinking gatekeeper. You dare to even hit a princess. Your whole family better wash your necks and wait. I'll have my royal father chop off all your heads. While saying this, she desperately tried to rush into the prince's residence. The guards lined up in a row, blocking her with their long sabers. She screamed in fright and backed away. Move aside. I'm the princess. I order all of you to move aside. She held up the fake jade token I had made. See this? I'm the real princess. The guards only listened to me and completely ignored her. I stepped forward and hit her mouth with a ruler, and only then did she quiet down. Drive them out. I was tired from hitting, So I ordered the guards to drag the two of them away and throw them far off. The two of them weren't willing to give up, and took the same approach as me, running to Shoyan Pavilion the next day to coincidentally run into my father. But my father was holed up in the Emperor's hot spring villa, and didn't dare go out without my orders. On the third day, Lu Mingyuan and Liu Sisi had no choice but to come to the entrance of Prince Li's residence again, to request an audience. This time they learned their lesson. As soon as they saw me, they respectfully bowed to me. "Young master, could you do us a favor and help announce our arrival?" While Lu Mingyuan was talking, Liu Sisi handed me a piece of silver. It was just a small piece, so I casually tossed it to another guard. I raised my spiked club and swung at them. "You dare bribe this young master? You're asking for death." Lu Mingyuan hurriedly shielded Liu Sisi and ran. I chased after them and beat them hard, only stopping when my arms were sore. Lu Mingyuan and Liu Sisi left with bruised and swollen faces, furious, but not daring to speak, supporting each other as they walked away. For the next few days, the two didn't show up again. The guard I sent to tail them came back to report that Liu Sisi couldn't take a beating, had already developed a fever, and was yelling about going back to Shuangqiao town, refusing to acknowledge this cursed relative anymore, afraid it would affect my subsequent plans. I then coaxed my father to return to the mansion and had someone leak word to those two cowards. At the entrance of Prince Li's mansion, just as my father stepped down from the carriage, Liu Sisi suddenly rushed out and screamed past the guards, Royal father, I am your biological daughter, Shen Qingli." She knelt on the ground holding the jade pendant high. "This was left to me by my mother. My mother's name is Shen Lingshuang. I'm 18 years old. My birthday is the 16th of May. She only knew the alias my mother used after settling in Shuangqiao town. But even so, if I hadn't come to claim kinship first, she could still have fooled my father with the jade pendant and the accurate birth date. After all, my father would have assumed my mother hated him to the bone, and couldn't even be bothered to tell the child her real name, to avoid the child asking who her biological father was. My dad and I exchanged a knowing glance, both seeing the excitement of prey taking the bait in each other's eyes. My dad walked over, picked up the jade pendant from Liu Sisi's hand and took a look, then turned to give me a disgusted look. "This is what you called lifelike. It is a piece of crap." I widened my eyes slightly. "The original you made yourself is a piece of crap." My dad knew he was in the wrong, turned his head back, cleared his throat, and asked Liu Sisi, "What did you say your name was?" Liu Sisi had been beaten several times, and finally seeing my dad alive, she was so excited that tears streamed down her face. "This humble girl is called Qingli. I previously took my mother's surname Shen temporarily. Change your name." My dad frowned impatiently. I warned him with my eyes not to break character, and only then did he reluctantly soften his expression. "What this prince means is, since you've come to acknowledge kinship, you should take this prince's surname. How about Xiao Xiao? Xiao Xiao sounds like petty thief." My dad is still not mature enough. I had no choice but to nudge him with my elbow. But he thought his performance was perfectly steady and ignored me. Liu Sisi, of course, said yes. "Thank you, royal father. This child likes the name Xiao Xiao. But mother liked to call me Sisi when she was alive. I hope royal father can also call me that. This way, mother would surely be pleased." Damn, she is even pulling the moral guilt Dan Trip card now. Too bad my dad has no morals. He waved his hand irritably. "Your mother was really such a busybody. I'll call you whatever I want. Who cares whether she is happy or not?" The "your mother" from his mouth naturally referred to Liu Sisi's biological mother. Liu Sisi was intimidated by my father's imposing manner, and didn't dare push her luck any further. "Your daughter will do as royal father says." But even so, my father still only called her with a, hey, who is this kid to you?" My father glared at Lu Mingyuan with a fierce and menacing look, wishing he could chop off his head with one swing. Liu Mingyuan bowed with fear and trepidation. This, Junior Liu, I wasn't asking you. My father rudely interrupted, looking at Liu Cixi. You answer. Liu Cixi shyly handed over the marriage contract. Royal father, he is my fiancé Liu Mingyuan. My father snatched the marriage contract and tore it to shreds. This marriage wasn't even approved by me, so it doesn't count. Then he kicked Liu Mingyuan to the ground. Take a look at what kind of thing you are. Yet you dare to covet this king's daughter, Pa. Liu Cixi rushed forward, wanting to help Liu Mingyuan up. I gave the guards a look, and immediately guards stepped forward to block Liu Cixi, not letting her get close to Liu Mingyuan. Hey, you are my daughter, Xiaoyan's daughter, a dignified princess. How can you be seen flirting with a low-Jan class man? What kind of behavior is that? My father blew his beard and glared at Liu Cixi. Simone, take the princess inside and serve her well. Let the mamas teach her properly how to be a decent princess. 2 strong and sturdy nannies immediately came over, dragging and pulling Liu Cixi into the residence. Liu Mingyuan was dumbfounded, continuously kowtowing to my father. I beg Prince Li for mercy. Cixi and I have been in love for years. We already consummated our marriage on the way to the capital. I beg Prince Li to grant us this. You unlucky piece of trash. How dare you touch my daughter? My father directly drew his blade and slashed at Liu Mingyuan. Scared, I hurriedly grabbed his arm, twisting it with all my might, and warned in a low voice, "Don't go crazy!" My father came back to his senses and reluctantly put his blade away. Forget it. Just settle this kid in the side courtyard for now. Liu Cixi was arranged to stay in the small side courtyard where General Qin's widow used to live. She was very dissatisfied, saying she wanted my father to give her a bigger courtyard. The nanny ignored her, threw her 2 sets of clothes to change into and left, not even assigning her a serving maid. Liu Cixi was unconvinced and wanted to go argue with my father herself, but as soon as she reached the door, she was stopped by guards who wouldn't let her leave. She scolded the guards, accusing them of being insubordinate. The guard replied expressionlessly, "Prince Li hasn't verified your identity yet. You're not a princess right now." Liu Cixi had no choice but to just wait. I had people send her only a cup of water and 1 steamed bun each day. After being left hanging for 3 days, Liu Cixi couldn't take it anymore and slit her wrists to force the guards to take her to see my father. The guards had no choice but to bring her over. My father scolded her. "Your body, hair, and skin are received from your parents. Without my consent, you dare to cut your own hand." Guards bandage her up and then give her 20 strikes. "No, please, royal father. I was wrong. Please spare the young master." No matter how Liu Cixi begged for mercy, the 20 strikes were still delivered in full. Afterward, Liu Cixi lay bedridden for a full half-month before she could barely manage to walk again. During this time, I happened to go to the side residence to deal with Liu Mingyuan. He was also confined, with only a cup of water and a steamed bun each day. After 3 days, he was already weak and listless. Seeing me appear, he immediately bowed to me humbly. "May I ask, young master, has Prince Li agreed to my marriage with the princess?" I lashed him with a whip. "Shameless bastard. You're just a commoner. How could you be worthy of our princess?" Liu Mingyuan swallowed his anger and still had to smile apologetically. "This humble one has indeed consummated with the princess." I lashed him again. "Slandering the princess, that is an additional crime." Liu Mingyuan didn't dare talk back anymore and carefully apologized. Then, could I trouble young master to help pass a message to Cixi? "Speak." I looked coldly at the disheveled Liu Mingyuan, unable to understand how my younger self, just awakening to love, could have fallen for such a scheming scoundrel. Liu Mingyuan bowed deeply. "Please trouble young master to tell Cixi that this Liu will marry no one but her in this lifetime, and tell her not to forget the Moon Dian embracing bridge." The Wanhua pavilion where Liu Cixi stayed was right by the Lanyue bridge. Liu Mingyuan was warning Liu Cixi not to forget him after getting benefits. "All right, This young master will definitely deliver your message. I walked quite far, yet Lu Mingyuan was still bowing, not daring to straighten up. I did deliver his message, but it was useless, because I was planning to send Liu Sisi into the palace to broaden her horizons. I had someone dress up Liu Sisi, and my father took her to the palace to attend the evening banquet. The emperor and empress both knew Liu Sisi was a fake, but compared to my father, their acting was truly seamless. The emperor rewarded Liu Sisi with many precious items on the spot, and the empress said she would hold a separate family recognition banquet for her. With such overwhelming wealth pouring down, Liu Sisi completely lost her way and totally forgot about that scumbag by the Lanyue Bridge. A few days later, the family recognition banquet was held at the prince's manor. The empress personally attended, giving Liu Sisi plenty of face. At the banquet, Liu Sisi was riding high, flitting around like a butterfly among the young masters of various noble families. Sisi, have you taken a fancy to any young master? This empress will arrange a marriage for you today. The empress waved her jade fan, looking at Liu Sisi with eyes full of affection. Her acting was flawless. Liu Sisi blushed shyly, her gaze wandering between the most handsome young heirs of the dukes and marquises' mansions. Finally, she leaned close to the empress, covering her face with her fan as she whispered the name of the young heir she fancied. The empress smiled and nodded, ordering someone to bring the phoenix seal, intending to issue an imperial decree on the spot. I had already ordered someone to bring Lu Mingyuan and lock him in the attic, pressing his head down to make him watch the entire process of how Liu Sisi flirted with the noble young masters. Lu Mingyuan's face turned ashen, the veins on his neck and temples bulging out. Seeing the timing was about right, I had someone let him out. As soon as he came out, he risked beheading by kneeling before the empress. I beg your majesty, the empress, to discern the truth. Sisi and this commoner have long had a marriage agreement, and she has a husband. Before he could finish speaking, Liu Sisi slapped him across the face. This move was actually beyond my expectations. After being hit, Lu Mingyuan stared blankly at Liu Sisi. Sisi, you hit me? Don't call me so intimately. Liu Sisi recoiled and also knelt toward the empress. Reporting to your majesty, this person is a shameless scoundrel. My mother died saving his mother, and seeing me become an orphan, they forced me to get engaged to this shameless man. Otherwise, they wouldn't let my mother be buried in the cemetery. Liu Sisi. In his desperation, Lu Mingyuan blurted out Liu Sisi's real name. Liu Sisi seemed to have been prepared for this all along, not even batting an eyelid. Your Majesty, see that? This is exactly how he threatens me. Liu Sisi is a brothel girl from town. Lu Mingyuan threatened me that if I dared to break off the engagement with him after reuniting with my family, he would slander me as a fake county princess and conspire with everyone in town to identify me as that brothel woman. What audacity! The empress was after all someone who had weathered great storms. While even I was left dumbstruck by Liu Sisi's reversal, she immediately released the empress's imposing pressure. To dare oppress a Junju to such an extent, you simply don't take the court seriously. The moment Lu Mingyuan heard this, he knew disaster was about to befall him. He immediately panicked, shouting his innocence. Sissy, I was wrong. I should have known my place. You and I are now as different as clouds and mud. I shouldn't have tried to reach beyond my status. But I really didn't do what you said. I beg the Empress to see the truth. The Empress looked toward me. I shook my head slightly, asking her not to kill Lu Mingyuan for now. The Empress went with the flow and sighed. Forget it. This palace has grown old. I won't get involved in the grudges between you young people. Seeing that the Empress had intentions of letting Lu Mingyuan go, Liu Sisi immediately became anxious too. Your Majesty, this person cannot be spared. Lu Mingyuan glared at Liu Sisi with resentment, hardly able to believe his ears. The Empress has already said she won't interfere. Junju should watch your words. I reminded in a low voice beside Liu Sisi. She had been beaten into fear by me, and also knew I was the most favored guard before Prince Li. Seeing that I had spoken up, she didn't dare continue pressuring the Empress for Lu Mingyuan's life. But she was obviously eager for quick results. When she spoke again, it was to urge the Empress to continue the imperial decree that hadn't been finished earlier. The Empress and I exchanged a glance, then tacitly looked away. She muttered a few words to the eunuch from the secretariat following beside her, and he immediately picked up his brush and wrote several lines on the imperial decree. Then, the Empress personally stamped it with the phoenix seal. Once the imperial decree was drafted, the head eunuch proclaimed it on the spot. Xiao Xiao, daughter of Prince Jing Xiaoyan, is of keen wit and graceful virtue. Qin Huai, son of the late general who pacifies the north. Lord Qin is a descendant of loyalty and valor, resolute and promising. The two are a match made by heaven. This Empress Dowager hereby decrees their marriage by imperial edict. All ceremonies shall be jointly arranged by the Ministry of Rites and the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, to be conducted according to protocol. So it is decreed. Qin Huai was the son born to that drama queen Lady Qin, who back then caused my mother to run away from home. He was a born jinx, a cursed child, as the common folk called him. The mother and son hadn't been invited today, so Liu Sisi had no idea what Qin Huai looked like. Upon first hearing that the Empress hadn't matched her with the Marquise's heir she fancied, Liu Sisi was quite shocked. But then she thought, since it was an imperial match arranged by the Empress, and the other party was the son of the late general who pacifies the north, it shouldn't be too bad. So she accepted the decree with some measure of joy. This was already letting her off easy. Originally, on my way to the capital, I was planning to mess with her by sending her off to marry into some barbaric little kingdom. But after hearing about how Lady Qin drove my mother away in anger, I changed my mind, especially after learning that Qin Huai was a cursed child who'd threatened to beat and kill people at the drop of a hat, and that completely solidified my idea of having her marry Qin Huai. Seeing that Liu Sisi's marriage was settled, during the entire family reunion he got nothing out of it for himself, and was beaten by me many times for no reason. Lu Mingyuan's gaze was so sinister it sent chills down people's spines. To this, I was delighted to see it. Liu Sisi's marriage was entirely entrusted to the Ministry of Rites, the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, and the Imperial Household Department to prepare. She just needed to eat well, drink well, and have fun. Then wait for the Qin family to come marry her. On the day she got married, the disguise master gave me another face, and I put on the heavy makeup of a female official and wore the official uniform. Now no one could recognize me. I went to the Qin family as a Hua Momo from the Empress's dowry staff. During the wedding ceremony, because there were people from the imperial family present, everything was still normal. On the wedding night, all hell broke loose at the Qin family. Although Qin Huai was barbaric by nature, he wasn't stupid. Liu Sisi had already consummated her relationship with Lu Mingyuan, and when she tried to use pre-Zian prepared chicken blood on the bedsheet to fool him, she was caught red-Zian-handed. Immediately, he gave Liu Sisi a severe beating. Naturally, this couldn't do without my contribution, this young master. I specifically had someone advise Qin Huai on how to identify whether the bride was a virgin, and how to guard against the bride cheating. I stood outside the door listening the whole time. Without my order, the accompanying maids and servants didn't dare make any move. Only when I could no longer hear Liu Sisi's cries for help did I have people rush in to save her. To prevent being accidentally hurt by Qin Huai, I not only wore soft armor, but also had 8 guards disguise themselves as servants to accompany me as part of my dowry. My royal father was even more dramatic, and he sent a team of 30 and 6 shadow guards to protect me around the clock in shifts. Only after Qin Huai stormed out of the bridal chamber in a fit of rage did I go inside to check on Liu Sisi. Her head must have been slammed against the wall by Qin Huai many times. And not only was it bleeding profusely, she had also passed out cold. I had the accompanying imperial physician tend to Liu Sisi's wounds, then took the 8 servants to go make trouble for Madame Qin. I had been looking forward to this day for a long time. Qin Huai was cursing wildly in his mother's room, saying the empress had given him a slut, which was an insult to all the ancestors of the Qin family. Of course, this was also something I'd arranged for people to plant in his head beforehand. Keep your voice down. Madame Qin was so anxious, her voice was trembling. That Nanny Hua is the empress's person. If she hears this, it'll mean beheading. This old servant has already heard it. I led the 8 servants, pushed aside the Qin family's nannies, maids, and household guards, and barged straight into Madame Qin's room. Madame Qin, the words this old servant just heard constitute a crime punishable by extermination of 9 clans. Madame has managed this household for many years, yet such treasonous words are spoken within these walls, directly offending Her Majesty, the Empress. This old servant is truly breaking out in a cold sweat for you, madam. Upholding my identity as the dowry nanny bestowed by the Empress, I said what should be said, and what shouldn't be said too. This matter, now that this old servant has heard of it, I cannot pretend to be unaware. According to palace regulations, the traitor must be immediately arrested and reported to Her Majesty the Empress and the Inner Court Office at once. Madam, what say you, Zan? Will you personally order this rebellious son to be bound and handed over to this old servant for disposal? Or shall this old servant dispatch someone with the Empress's decree to summon a squad of Luanyi guards to the residence to arrest him? Madame Qin was so frightened by my few words that she broke down crying, collapsing at my feet, with her hands clasped together, begging incessantly. "Spare us, Nanny. Please see the truth, Nanny." Huayr had no idea what he was saying. His madness has flared up again, Zan, please. Please don't take his crazy talk seriously. His father died fighting for the country. I beg, Nanny, for the sake of my late husband who sacrificed himself for the nation and left behind only this last drop of blood, please show mercy. The Qin family cannot be left without an heir. Every wrong is my fault. It is me who failed to discipline my son. It is me who didn't watch over him. If Nanny wants to punish someone, punish me. I beg you to report to Her Majesty the Empress. This old woman is willing to accept any punishment. I only ask that Her Majesty show mercy and spare his life. Thinking about how back then, when my mother and father were being intimate, this woman interrupted them time and again, causing my mother to leave home in a fit of anger. And in the end, my parents were separated by life and death, Jian. I couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Losing to such trash, my mother was really too polite. Sigh, Madam has had it hard too. Forget it. Her Majesty the Empress is benevolent, and this old woman doesn't wish to push things to the extreme. The young master suffers from madness and talks nonsense, but it is not like we can't be flexible about this. I pretended to be merciful, but was actually full of wicked schemes. It is just that this illness seems to be getting worse. Ordinary methods no longer work. Starting from today, we'll handle it according to the palace rules for dealing with lunacy. All food and daily living will be taken over by the people this old woman brought. As for you, madam, please return to the northern border. I hear there are very efficacious temples there. You can chant sutras and pray for your son there. Unless there is something important, don't come back to see him. This old woman can guarantee that the Qin family bloodline won't be cut off. That last part was His Majesty's intention. I wouldn't dare disobey. Upon hearing this, Madame Qin quickly kowtowed in gratitude. After dealing with Madame Qin, I directly had Lu Mingyuan and Liu Sisi thrown into the dungeon. I was very considerate and gave them a double room. Liu Sisi woke up to find herself in the same cell as Lu Mingyuan. She immediately pointed at him and started cursing. "You lingering ghost, what did you do this time to drag me down with you?" Liu Mingyuan had wanted to hit her for a while now, but held back only because she had been unconscious the whole time, and he felt flogging a corpse wasn't very satisfying. Now being cursed at with Liu Sisi pointing right at his nose, how could he still hold back? He raised his hand and slapped her twice across the face. Liu Cixi was beaten so hard she slammed into the wall, and just as she regained consciousness, she passed out again. Still dressed as Granny Hua, I led people rushing into the prison, restrained Lu Mingyuan, then had someone splash water on Liu Cixi to wake her up. When Liu Cixi opened her eyes, I smiled and asked the two of them, "Do you know why you're in prison?" Liu Cixi mumbled, "Isn't it just because I wasn't a virgin? Does the Qin family really have to be this ruthless?" She looked up at me pitifully. "Granny Hua, please pass a message to my royal father and ask him to come save me quickly." Idiot. I raised my foot and kicked her down, then turned to look at Lu Mingyuan. "What about you? Why do you think you're in prison?" Lu Mingyuan remained silent, his eyes evasive, clearly having guessed that the matter of impersonating the princess had been exposed. Only Liu Cixi was still yelling at me. "You're just the Empress's lackey. How dare you hit this princess? Someone slap her across the face." I let out a cold sneer, raised my hand, and performed a face stand-changing trick for them. What I changed into was the face of Guard Ruian. Upon seeing this, both of them simultaneously scrambled backward on all fours. Obviously, they'd been beaten into submission. I laughed heartily, then raised my hand and changed my face once more. This time, I revealed my true appearance. Shen Qingli. Liu Cixi was stunned, instinctively looking toward Lu Mingyuan, and Lu Mingyuan's whole body trembled as he mechanically turned his head. When he saw that familiar yet unfamiliar face clearly, his pupils instantly dilated to the extreme, as if he had seen a ghost, and he fell flat on his butt onto the ground. Countless images flashed through his mind, finally converging into a terrifying truth. You knew all along." Lu Mingyuan pointed at me tremblingly. "From the very beginning, you knew. That is right." I looked down at him from above, my eyes filled with pity and satisfaction. "From the moment you plotted to kill me, I already knew. Your Sodan called rebirth, your Sodan called foresight, in my eyes, is nothing but a clumsy monkey show." Lu Mingyuan's throat made a gurgling sound, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't get the words out. Despair, utter despair. He thought he was a god in control of everything, but turned out to be nothing but an ant being toyed with in someone's palm. Lu Mingyuan fell flat on his butt onto the ground. He let out a miserable laugh. "The winner takes all and the loser gets nothing. I accept my defeat. Shen Qingli, give me a quick death." "A quick death." Prince Li let out a cold snort and stepped forward. "You wanted my daughter's life. You wanted my manners, wealth, and glory. And now that you've lost, you want to beg for death. It is not that easy. Then what do you want?" Lu Mingyuan raised his head, his eyes full of bloodshot veins. "I'm telling you, even if you kill me, I'm still a rebirther. I'll be reborn again after I die. In my next life, I definitely won't let you off." "Rebirth?" I said as if I'd heard some joke. "Lu Mingyuan, you really think you're the chosen one?" I pulled out a worn book from my sleeve and threw it in front of him. It was the past life diary that Lu Mingyuan had always treasured, which recorded his Sodan called future major events. "Your Sodan called rebirth was nothing but a grand dream you had before dying in your past life." I coldly shattered his fantasy. "In that dream, you enjoyed the pinnacle of glory, but in reality, you were just a beggar who froze to death on the streets." "No, this can't be. I clearly remember." "You remember jack shit." Prince Li kicked him in the chest. "That hunting expedition you mentioned, this prince never even went. That dragon blood severing orchid you spoke of was made up by this prince to bait you. Your memories were wrong from start to finish." Lu Mingyuan was stunned. If the rebirth was fake, if everything was just his delusion, then everything he did in this life, abandoning his conscience, plotting against his fiancé, Zan, what was it all for? The collapse of one's beliefs is often more painful than physical torture. Lu Mingyuan opened his mouth wide and let out a beast Zan-like wail. Zan. Liu Cixi looked at the crazed Lu Mingyuan, and finally realized that she too was a victim of this absurd play. She collapsed limply in the cell, never making another sound. I glanced at this pair of man and woman who once wanted me dead. My heart no longer stirred. "Father, let's go." I held onto Prince Lee's arm. "It stinks too much here." Prince Lee nodded, his gaze gentle. "All right, let's go home." Walking out of the water dungeon, the sunlight was just right. I took a deep breath of the flowers and scented air, feeling more relaxed than ever before. "Chingli, what do you want to do next?" Prince Lee asked me. I thought for a moment, looking into the distance. "I want to go see Mother. Tell her the scallion bits have been picked clean, and the revenge has been taken. Her daughter is living very well now." "All right, Father will go with you." Behind us, the gates of the water dungeon slowly closed, locking those two souls consumed by greed forever in the darkness. And me, I walked arm in arm with my royal father, striding forward in the sunlight.